Matt Corral's journey to Ole Miss is an interesting one. The Southern California native originally committed to USC before decommitting in June of 2017. In 2020, Corral accounted for 3,843 total yards and 33 total touchdowns, leaving many to believe he could put up stellar numbers in 2021 in year 2 of the Lane Kiffin system. That is exactly what Corral did, being considered a Heisman candidate throughout most of the college football season and putting together a season that may lead to him being the first quarterback taken in this year's NFL draft. But who is Matt Corral and what makes him so special? Matt Anthony Corral was born on January 31st, 1999, and grew up in the Southern California area. Corral attended Oaks Christian School in Westlake Village, California, and was quickly put on college coaches' radar. According to 24/7 Sports, Corral threw for 1,375 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, while also rushing for 56 yards and 5 more touchdowns on the ground as a freshman. Corral only improved his recruiting stock during his sophomore year, throwing for 3,283 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, and hovered around 24/7 Sports' top 10 in the 2018 recruiting rankings. During his junior year, Corral threw for 3,025 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, while also rushing for 346 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. Everything looked to be going great until February 2017, when Corral would be involved in an altercation with Tristan Gretzky, Wayne Gretzky, aka the Great One's son. This led to Corral leaving Oaks Christian and enrolling at Long Beach Poly. According to USA Today, this led to Corral posting some controversial tweets that he later deleted and apologized for when departing from Oaks Christian. This led some to speculate that Corral had character and anger issues and his maturity was questioned. Corral's father Peter told The Athletic, "Matt's been through some stuff, some bullshit that wasn't even true, that people were just making up." Matt told USA Today back in 2017 that he learned some lessons from the whole situation, but that did not stop the narrative that Corral was a prospect with a lot of baggage. According to The Athletic, Corral's parents decided to send him to therapy due to the spotlight, negativity, and expectations surrounding their son. This led to college coaches questioning whether they could trust Corral or not at the next level. I personally debated about including this part, but I felt it was important for the story of Matt Corral and what he had to overcome in high school. A lot of prospects may have struggled after going through something like this, but Corral, a 17-year-old kid might I add, reinvented himself and kept working towards his goal of playing high-level Division I football. Trent Dilfer, who coached Corral during the Elite 11, told the Clarion Ledger there really isn't that much off-the-field stuff, but what he went through was how in today's world, social media and recruiting being such a big story, that things become such a big story that you become villainized many times as a young kid. He had to deal with that. There were a lot of things that were unfair about the situation and not right for a young kid to go through, and the things that were said about him. As a senior, Corral threw for 2,495 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, while also rushing for 124 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. He finished his high school career accounting for over 11,000 total yards and over 120 total touchdowns as a 4-year starter. Corral would compete at the Elite 11 finals before his senior year and finished his high school career playing in the U.S. Army All-American Bowl. According to 24/7 Sports Composite, Matt Corral was a 4-star recruit who was the 4th best pro-style quarterback, 9th best player in California, and 63rd best prospect overall. Corral showed that he was obviously a talented quarterback coming out of high school, with Greg Biggins of 24/7 Sports describing his arm strength as generational. Corral received over 9 different Division I offers from the likes of Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, and USC. Originally, Corral committed to USC before his junior season, but after his controversial departure from Oaks Christian, the Trojans started to distance themselves from the Southern California product until Corral decommitted in June of 2017. A month after Corral decommitted from USC, he would commit to Florida, who was still being coached by Jim McElwain at the time. Even as Florida struggled and fired Jim McElwain, Corral remained committed to the Gators through the hiring process of Dan Mullen. When Mullen was first hired at Florida, Corral received the initial impression that he was the sole focus. Corral's father told The Athletic, "We're at Long Beach Poly in a meeting room. Receivers coach Bill Gonzalez says, 'Matt, we're not looking for any quarterbacks. We're only looking for one, and you're him. You're our guy.' Then Florida would offer junior college quarterback Terry Wilson, who would sign with Kentucky, which caught Corral off guard. With the Gators looking for other quarterbacks, Corral decided to start looking at other schools himself. Enter Ole Miss. Ole Miss was in a tough spot, only having 2 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. Shea Patterson, and Jordan Teamu. On December 1st, 2017, the NCAA placed sanctions on the Rebels program, including a year-long investigation into recruiting violations. Quarterback Shea Patterson was granted permission to transfer the following day, and head coach Matt Luke needed to do something. The Rebels were coming off a strong finish to the 2017 season and an Egg Bowl win, and they now had a spot to recruit a quarterback. With Ole Miss desperately needing a quarterback and Corral likely needing a new home, the two seemed like a match, but Luke needed to do some vetting first. Luke talked to former high school coaches and several coaches who were recruiting Corral originally, including Doug Nussmeier from Florida, who was no longer on the coaching staff after the coaching change. Luke also talked to Matt and his family, and they hit it off. Corral took an official visit to Ole Miss in early December and had planned to take an official visit to Florida mid-December. When it came time for Corral to visit Florida, the Gators were sending a limo to pick up the Corral family and take them to the airport. Corral never got in the limo. You see, Coach Luke and Coach Phil Longo flew in and visited the Corral family before they left for Gainesville. Coach Luke told the family, "Mr. and Mrs. Corral, you know, Matt's going off to Florida and we wanted to wish him well on Florida's trip. We're here to let him know we're with him and he's our guy. We're coming out here to let him know that. We want him to have fun in Florida, but Mississippi, we want him. We love him." On December 14th, Corral decommitted from Florida and committed to Ole Miss, and a month later he arrived on campus. Hey you! Yeah, you! Where do you think Matt Corral will be drafted? Let me know in the comment section below. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it because it really helps the video in the algorithm. Corral struggled his first semester at Ole Miss due to being homesick. His freshman season also wasn't the easiest, as he sat behind senior quarterback Jordan Teamu and was playing in an air raid system he wasn't too familiar with. Ole Miss finished the season 5-7, losing the last 5 games of the season. It was also the first time in Corral's career that he was second string. The most attention Corral got was when he was a part of a brawl with Mississippi State in a lopsided Egg Bowl loss. Matt spoke on the brawl, telling The Athletic, "I see A.J. Brown walking up to these 3 white jerseys. It was just him, so I walked over there. Next thing you know, A.J. gets socked, and then I separate both of them. Number 2 comes at me. I'm like, oh, alright. And I wasn't just going to let that happen." After the brawl, Corral earned his teammates' respect due to the fact a lot of quarterbacks would not be a part of a situation like that. Players started to gravitate towards him due to his unique ability and toughness. Corral's brother also transferred to graduate school to get his master's at Ole Miss as well, which helped with the homesickness. In the spring of his redshirt sophomore year, he started to create a bond with the offensive linemen and provide input to the wide receivers. He was also in a more comfortable offense under Rich Rodriguez. Corral looked like he was going to be the future for Ole Miss. As a redshirt freshman, Corral appeared in 10 games, making 4 starts. He led the team in passing yards and touchdowns, throwing for 1,362 yards and 6 touchdowns, along with 3 interceptions while completing 59% of his passes. He also added 135 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Ole Miss finished the season 4-8, losing 5 of their last 6 games of the season. Matt Luke would be fired, and Lane Kiffin would take over the head coaching job. Corral was going to be playing for his 3rd offensive coordinator in as many years. According to Corral, when Kiffin came to Ole Miss, the atmosphere changed, and guys started wanting to do things the right way. At this point, the former 4-star prospect was looking like a possible bust, until Kiffin was able to get the best out of him. Although Kiffin drew the quarterback battle out between Corral and John Rice Plumlee into the first game, Corral became the true favorite, opening up the 2020 season throwing for 395 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, while completing 71% of his passes in a loss to Florida. He continued to put on a show throughout the shortened season, throwing for 365 yards against Alabama, 412 yards and 6 touchdowns against Vanderbilt, 513 yards and 4 touchdowns against South Carolina, 385 yards and 2 touchdowns in an Egg Bowl win over Mississippi State, and 342 yards and 2 touchdowns in a bowl game win over Indiana. Corral finished his redshirt sophomore season throwing for 3,337 yards, which was 7th most in the nation, 29 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions, while completing 70.9% of his passes. He also rushed for 506 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. Going into the 2021 season, many wondered what Lane Kiffin and Matt Corral would do. The combo impressed as Corral threw for 3,333 yards, 20 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions, while also rushing for almost 600 yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground going into the Sugar Bowl. He had 4 games with over 300 passing yards and raised his draft stock, becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the 2022 NFL draft class. Going to the Sugar Bowl, many wondered whether Corral would play. He chose to play, telling reporters, "I mean, it was just my teammates. I never questioned it. If I was them, in their shoes, and they had a quarterback in the same position, I just couldn't live with what they would think of me. Like just leaving and just being like, alright, that was the last game, and no one knowing that that was the last game. The only reason why I say this is because no one really understood how close we really are. It just would have been the wrong thing to do, just not playing and just holding out on them." During a time period many attacked young players for opting out of bowl games, Corral quickly became the poster boy for what ESPN described as doing the right thing. Corral would unfortunately get hurt early in the Sugar Bowl, limping off the field and being carted to the locker room. He came out of the locker room on crutches without pads on. I pray this injury is not a severe one, and I hope he has a speedy recovery. I also hope this does not affect his draft stock. Personally, I think Matt Corral is one of the best quarterbacks in this year's NFL draft class, but what do you think? Where will Matt Corral go in this year's NFL draft? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my other videos right here. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.